I'm not sure if anybody's going to come in here because it is daytime. I just got done driving. It's it is, I don't know, noon where I'm at right now. Uh, some people ask why I always say where I'm at. I say where I'm at to burn into my brain. So right now I am in Chicopee, Massachusetts at the AM Best Pride on I-90 exit 51. Gotta pay to park. I did go up there and grab a fuel receipt that somebody left in the pump, so it's not quite 60 gallons, so we'll see if something comes off of that. But I wanted to talk about, for those of you guys that watch this on the replay, I want to talk about my life before getting into trucking at Prime Inc. because somebody had asked that question. So I'll kind of repeat this a couple times. But that's kind of what this video is about. So it looks like we got at least one person out there that's not solar power trucking. If you can, just come in, just say what's up so I know who's in the house. What's up, David Boyd? All right, so if you can, just come in here and say what's up so I know who I'm talking to. I'm going to say this a few times until we get a few people in here. Eric Philip Martin, what is up? Wanted to talk about, well, I didn't necessarily want to talk about it. Somebody had asked me if I missed the business that I came out of and wanted me to kind of do a video on what my life was like before I came into trucking. So I figured I would do a video kind of about that. And it would be easier to do it on a live than to do a regular video because I could just see me, stopping the video 100 times or, I'm not editing shit on this trucking channel. So Justin Hale said he is solar power trucking. I'm kind of solar power trucking. I'm out here, Chicopee, Massachusetts. For everybody said I said it wrong. Massachusetts is how it should be said. Massachusetts sounds stupid, but I'm out here at the AM Best Pride on I-90 exit 51. I'm 100 miles away from my delivery at 4:30 in the morning tomorrow, but this was the closest I could get with reasonable parking. I'm not trying to park, service plaza where you got to park on the edge. I'm just not doing all that. So Jade Pope is coming to Prime on the 29th. Flatbed, congratulations. So that's kind of what's up. All right, so for those of you guys just coming in, I got a request a while back where somebody asked me if I missed the business I was in before I came to, and then wanted me to talk about it. And doing a video on that will be a lot harder to do than just doing a live because I could just see me, stopping the video a bunch of times, whatever. So we're going to do that in this video and kind of go from there. My name is Trent. I'm a solar power trucker. Hey, congratulations. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I left Waterloo, New York this morning, and my hours came back at like 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. or no, let's see, 11. Yeah, 9 p.m. And I was just like, you know what? Let me just sleep in a little bit. I knew this truck stop was here, and you got to pay to park here, but it's the closest I could get to where I'm going. And I pulled into the fuel island, and there was a receipt. Free parking, you have to get 60 gallons. This guy, see if I can use that on my way out of here. But I just stocked up at Walmart, so I don't need to go there and get anything. So I'll just go ahead and pay it if I have to. All right, so let's see. Dick Dickerson, probably leaving Prime after lease is up, can't take new leadership and their new asinine rhetoric. silence. Sometimes you got to read into the silence. But yes, we got 32 people in here, so I might as well talk about this a little bit. So, what did I do before Prime? Now I'm gonna. Some of this stuff is not gonna really seem like it makes sense or relevant to talking about, but it's gonna kind of lead you on the path. So, and I've mentioned some of this in other videos, but I try to speed through the stuff that doesn't really make sense. All right, so, back in the 90s, I was a car salesman. I worked with this old guy that we used to call Preacher. He'd be wearing like 3-piece suits. Young people don't know about 3-piece suits, but he'd be wearing 3-piece suits in the middle of the summertime. We were probably two people you would never imagine getting along, but we were cool. He ended up retiring, and I ended up working at this dealership. He brought his daughter in to buy a couple cars, and one day she was like, "Lyle, you need to get out of this business. Why don't you come work with me?" So I was asking about how much the pay was, all this kind of stuff, and I was like, I can't do this. So it really took me about a year to maybe a year and a half to get my finances straight. As I mentioned before in previous videos, that I worked at a dealership where leadership had changed and they were more interested in how things were done rather than the actual sales process and selling cars. At that point, I left there, went to another dealership where one of my boys worked. Best place to ever work ever. They fucked that up, just like, everybody's always trying to change shit, micromanage everything. So once that happened, I was financially in line to do what she had requested or said I should have done. Gave her a call. I was like, hey, I'm trying to leave the car business. She's like, all right, fill out an application, put my name on it, and then I'll kind of push it through. So I left the car business, she got me hooked up at Key Bank. Now, she was a private banker at Key Bank, so I kind of had to fall under that. I wasn't a private banker or anything like that, but I was a small business banker, and I forgot the name of it. Basically, a relationship management bank. So if you had so many assets at a bank, which really wasn't that high, then I would kind of manage your account. And then part of my job was to try to get you to open credit cards. If you had a second on your house, try to get you to do that. I work with like small car dealerships to help their people get financing. I helped Harley Davidson dealership do the same thing. And there was a custom car shop I used to deal with. But I used to get business however I'd get it. And one of the places I got business from was the place where I ended up working for almost 20-something years. Or not, let's see. Started there in 2000-ish. Left there when I came to trucking, which was 2019. So about 19 years at that company. So 20-something years in this business. So anyway, or in that business. So this just brings us up to where I came right before I came here. So the money I was seeing in the mortgage industry back at that time was so big that it had to take something other than money to motivate me. So I really tried to focus on doing the most business at this particular place. Never had any aspirations or whatever to become a manager. Let's take this back. So the company I had to go work for was started by a guy that's about 2 years older than me. He's been in a video of mine. where we were talking about a few things. Probably the best person I've ever worked for. And he started the business in about 1996. So he was about 30 years old. At the time, he had, you know, just one office and a bunch of like loan officers, but there's really no need to manage him at that particular point. But there became a time when he needed management to kind of just manage shit. So he started the business with one of his boys, and his brother became a manager. And just like a lot of times, there's a little nepotism involved with that, so he really wasn't that good of a manager. Now, I've always been a little outspoken. I always said what I wanted to say, but I've always tried to back it up with production. And one thing I think that, well, I know they said was years down the line, he told me why I became a manager was that I was a little outspoken, maybe talked a bunch of shit, but people generally followed me because they really couldn't say shit. Like, you couldn't really say anything about me. So when that manager left, they promoted me to a manager. Now, part of the problem with that was most of the people that were there had more experience than me, but I'd been like putting up all the numbers for all these years, so you really couldn't fuck with me. So that happened in about 2001. Now, in the mortgage business, you have a ton of different managers. You have managers that are like production managers. You have managers that are, and that means they produce on their own. You have other managers that manage the business. I was kind of a hybrid between the two, meaning I didn't do my own business at this point. And that's probably a mistake that I made if you could look into the future. So the way I considered being a manager in the mortgage business when I first came in the early 2000s was like trying to hold back a pack of pit bulls on a leash. You know, you aren't, like, a lot of the people skills that I've come up with in life came from managing back then, whether it be, you know, somebody said that a video I just posted was ass kissing or, you know, whatever. It's like you need to be a chameleon in certain situations. So basically my job was to make things easier for the people that I work with. So I could have a salesperson that's a top salesperson that might be calling a fucking bank that we're sending some loans through that might have motherfucked them, that I need to kind of smooth that over. It could be, typically your best salespeople aren't going to be the most attention to detail oriented, so before the loans got sent in, I would be the one to kind of square the loans away, stuff like that. And you know, divvy out punishment or whatever. Not punishment, but just handle shit when it needs to get handled. And then that kind of morphed into, okay, we're growing the business. We're going to open up a branch in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Phoenix, Arizona. So then I kept my management role the same in Denver because I had the owner and the co-owner there that were kind of able to manage shit, but then they were trying to roll out Charlotte and Phoenix. So I would spend time, not as much time in Phoenix because the owner's dad was kind of out there, but a lot of time in Phoenix, Arizona, just getting things set up. We had two managers that were out there, so I was kind of over them too, and the sales staff that was out there. My job, I guess, would be to teach them how to do business, and not only just kind of them leading from the front. So here's how to get business, let's go get it. You know what? Here's how to get business. A lot of people don't think about going and talking to, you know, insurance agents or whatever. Let's go meet insurance agents, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I would just like handhold people. So before I go out to Phoenix, I call up the office, talk to individual salespeople, ask them what's up with their business, what's their business plan, And then I say, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna come out here, and I plan on talking to this, these people. If you can set up appointments, I'll just show up, or I'll have appointments set. So I go out there, kind of do that, and so I really wasn't managing over the paperwork as much as I was teaching people how to do business and cultivating business that people could take over out there. Charlotte was more or less just kind of overseeing a little bit, but not really too involved out there. I really didn't go out there all that much. So I will say that I don't miss that business. Part of the reason that I left that business was because it was so stressful. But when I left, I wasn't a manager. So I was only a manager there from like 2000, early or late 2000s to like 2006-ish, somewhere in there. And then it just became too much. Everything just started irritating. Business wasn't quite as good as it was. Just like now, I really wasn't feeling it on a personal level. But I kept kicking myself in the ass for becoming a manager, because when I became a manager, that was like that was like almost 5 years where I gave up all my business. So I didn't have that repeat business to lean on the way I was. And so anyway, that's kind of it. What I do miss about that business was, it was it was a family atmosphere. I mean, I remember when I first got started there. I left the bank that I was working at, and how I met them was the company that I stayed with for all those years used to send me business. So that's kind of how we developed that relationship. And then one day he's like, "Wow, why are you over there?" And they kind of screwed me out some money. I'll get to that here. Actually, let's talk about that now, because I can get that out of the way. So they kind of screwed me out of some money. So there are some changes going on at KeyBank around around early 2000. And they were like, you have to choose between what you want your role to be. One role was going to get based on, and I found this out after the fact, but one was going to be based on your own production, and one was going to be based on bank production. So it was falsely given to me that, where they were like, "Wow, instead of choosing this route, you should take this route, because this route pays more on your personal production." I forgot what it was. They really fucked me. So when the bonuses came out that year, I was like, I know I'm about to get about $28,000 in bonuses. So it was one of those things where I was so cocky to where people are talking about, "Oh, here's my bonuses. I just got the email with my bonuses." I didn't even go open up my email to see what my bonus was, because I was like, I know I'm about to get paid. And I'm thinking about 28,000. That shit came across and it was like 6,000. I'm going to hold up on some of these comments, but Sir Jizz, how long have I been at Prime? A little over 5 years. So I knew I was going to get paid. I knew I was about to get broke off. And I got that thing, so I went and talked to the girl that hired me. And she was like, "Man, I have no idea." So I talked to the regional manager, and he was like apologizing. He's like, "Well, what we could do is we can give you a raise to this, and then we can make your production be like this." And I was like, "Man, that's just going to take so long to pay off." I was like, the writing's on the wall. So I had an expense account that was about $600 a month. I'd use to take people out to lunch, or, just whatever. Businesses, high net worth clients, shit like that. So I started going and buying gift cards at all these different restaurants. and because I knew I was on my way out. And finally, when I got to a certain level, talked to my boy at this mortgage company that I stayed at for like 20 some odd years, or 18 or whatever it was, and left and went over there. Now, before I made up my mind, because I was scared as shit to get in that industry, because I did have a base salary when I was at the bank. KG, what do I think about Tim Travels? Let me put it this way. I'll get back to my story in a second. There was a girl, or I had a driver driving for me a few years ago, and she decided to train somebody, and they were in Las Vegas, and this driver did not make it back to the truck when they were supposed to. My advice, which now I guess is the wrong advice, would be leave. So I don't fuck with people being late, and I don't even know how I would have taken that situation, especially if I'm not leaving. I'm going across the street to a blue beacon. But anyway, enough about that. I'm not even going to get into that. So anyway, what I miss about that business, and how they actually got me into it, or not got me into it, was they were like, hey, Lyle, we're about to have a company dinner. We hit our goal. Why don't you come to our company meeting? I can remember exactly what I was wearing to that meeting, or to that dinner. But it was at Del Frisco's, and it was like, whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to drink, whatever. And went in there, and I was just like, gee, it was the first time I really saw like real money being spent on some shit. I don't know, it was hard to explain. And I was like, all right, I gotta come over. So went over there, and the money was coming in like so big that I really didn't need it. So what I've said to myself was, something's got to motivate me more than money. So I was like, okay, I got to be better than everybody. So that's kind of what motivated me to do that. That's how I came up into management and all that. But that was like the best, I'm telling you, between like it took me about a year to become a manager, which surprised me because a lot of people there have more experience. But I just remember, damn, I'm all over the place. I can't keep my train of thought. That, everybody in trucking wants to talk about they don't want to be a number and all this kind of stuff. And I said I'll never be a number. It's what I learned in that business that keeps me from being that. But that being said, that business, no matter what any trucking company says, we do this, we do that, that right there was like truly, even to this day. I just did a video a few months ago with the owner of that mortgage company. We just spoke about 3 weeks ago, and that right there was kind of family. That right there was that was the best job ever. That was a job where I don't know, I mean, it was the best job when it was the best environment. Now the job kind of fluctuated, so the job could be good or bad, but the environment never really changed. So that's what I miss. That, I think, is what trucking is missing. And that's one thing that nobody could say about me when I was managing in the mortgage business. If I was asking somebody to do some shit that was maybe a little bit more work than normal, nobody could say, you haven't done no mortgages. And that's one thing about the trucking industry that I just cannot, it grinds the shit out of me, that a lot of the leadership just doesn't have that experience. And it's not the experience that matters. It's just the perspective that I think is lacking. Um, but anyway, uh, so why did I wind down out of that? And I mean, those are some good years, I'm telling you. And it really wasn't. It really wasn't even the business. I mean, I just remember going out to Phoenix, taking the office out to dinner at Champs, and I forget what road, Baseline Road or whatever. Taking everybody out to Champs and just like, you know, getting to know everybody and just being like, you know what? When the bill comes, everybody's like looking at the old white guy that looks like he should be paying the bill, and then him saying, you know, no, him right there. Just a period of time that I just have a lot of good feelings for. Now, why did I get out of it? You know, it just became a whole lot stressful. Love you, Andrew. Just became too stressful. It was the stress was just becoming a little overwhelming at that point. I think the beginning of the end of me leaving that business was when I stepped down from being a manager. A lot of that business that I lost made it a little bit harder for me because I didn't have that book of business that I had before. For those of you guys don't know, book of business would be just people that you've done business with in the past, so I didn't have that as much. And since my wife's son here, our son started acting like he didn't have any goddamn sense at one point. And I was just like, school said he's like acting like a clown or doing whatever. And I was like, all right, let me go up to school and sit in every single class of his. I was right up in school, sitting right next to him in every class of the day. You know, so that was one thing I did to, you know, it's like, you know, I need to keep a foot in his ass a little bit more. And then my stepdad was going through a process of dying, so I was like, you know what, let me be there for him to do that. And then I was just like, you know, I don't even want to go back in, so I stopped really going into the office all that much. And then things kind of just start winding down, and then I got started thinking about trucking and all that kind of stuff. And then that's kind of what brought me into the business. You know, Prime's been kind of a moving target. I think it's not necessarily as homely as it used to feel, but it, you know, it would be impossible for it to be like what I came out of anyway. But I think Prime is a lot of what you make it. I've never felt like I was a number at Prime, but I've continually started shrinking, you know, my, as we used to call it in the business world, I've started shrinking my sphere of influence down to where I don't say Prime's a family. You know, now, you know, then it would be, well, now this group of people is my family. And then it's kind of got shrunk down to fleet manager, logs, payroll, and then drivers, and then people that I kind of deal with or know. You know, it's not just this big old, you know, it's just not no big old happy family, which it probably isn't intended to be in the first place. But anyway, that's kind of a short, or not short, I guess it's been a while. That's kind of what I did before I came into this business. And I look at a lot of things in trucking through that lens. So a lot of it business wise, whether it's like how I run loads, you know, if I was a trainer, how I managed, you know, being a trainer, all that kind of stuff. So, and kind of what I expect. and not necessarily what I expect, but well, I guess it would be what I expect from leadership or whatever. And not everybody can be that leader. A lot of people don't have the age on them to be leader, or are going to grow into that job. I remember when I first became a manager, and I've kind of seen this a little bit myself, is a leader, when I first became a manager, and I can exactly remember when my perspective changed, was my job as a manager, I thought, was to be that rough guy, that no nonsense and my way or the highway kind of guy, and whatever. And I kind of see that a little bit, but really, it wasn't until the owner of the company said, Lyle, if I wanted to light somebody up, or I wanted to degrade somebody about their business production or do whatever, I could do that. I don't need somebody that's out here yelling at my sales force. What I need is somebody to help them along with what they're doing. And that kind of flipped the switch in my head, because I came out of the Marine Corps kind of mentality, like, this is how it's done or whatever. And that my way or the highway shit, that works for a very short amount of time, because you will have people that let you know, and luckily this didn't happen to me, but you will have people that let you know that you aren't as important as you thought you were, when you're having to hire a bunch of people to replace the people that shouldn't have left in the first place. So that's kind of a lesson that I learned, and the lens I look at things through when I'm critiquing certain situations. All right, so anyway, that's it. I'm just out here chilling. That was probably a boring ass video, but I figured it'd be easier in a live than me cutting the video and doing all this stuff multiple times. KG or Toby Hunt said, just watched his 2 videos, sad he was a good dude. Here's the thing about that. If we're talking about the Tim Travels situation, he was not even, here's how good of a guy Terry was. Tim Travels. He'd been dealing with this shit for however long he was dealing with it, right? We've been having conversations all along. He never mentioned this. It wasn't until he said, I'm going to go home, all this kind of stuff. The money, he never mentioned anything about this trainee. So he said, I'm going to go home. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick this trainee back up because the money's just not there. I said, in me, I was thinking, you know what? Since Terry hadn't said anything bad about him, you know what? Let me think about it. I might go ahead and pick him up so you don't have to, or so he's not being fucked waiting around for another trainer. That's the only time that Terry told me about what was going on with this guy. And it was right around that time with the whole at the Petro. I mean, it was like right then when all this stuff came up. So he hadn't been telling me about any of this other stuff until I said I was going to take him. And he's like, you probably don't want that. So it took me to actually say I was going to do it for him to even bring up what this guy was doing. Most people would have been talking shit about this guy well before that. And, another thing that lets me know that, he was kind of a good guy in this situation, I do not play any of that shit. It, like, one time being, my wife could tell you if, actually most of my students, I never had to worry about this, but if, one of my guys that I trained does come in here a little bit, but we never had to get to it. My wife can tell you when it comes down to time, especially when I'm dealing with my son or whatever, that shit's by the minute. Like, if I say be somewhere, and it's like I say be there at 3:30, like 3:27, I'm calling motherfuckers. If you aren't there by like 3:31, we got problems. So, and there's certain things I would just stand on. And I don't care what, at some point, principle stands above money. And it stands above any of this other shit. So, I don't know if I'd have let the guy, if I'd have drove to the Blue Beacon or not. It's a fucking half-mile away. I don't know. I can only speak for me. I've never looked at a truck stop as a dangerous environment or anything like that, But what I can tell you is, when it comes to time, I am like militant about that shit. My wife can attest to that. Andrea's life is in there. I do not play about that. And whether that's good or bad. Because there's plenty of times when people be like, I'm having a party at my house, and I be showing up like, 20 minutes early when, that may be too early. But I cannot deprogram myself from that shit. So when people aren't about that time, I got a problem with it. And it's enough to where I couldn't even look at you in your eye after a certain point. So if I was with a trainee and that's how they were, that would be a short-lived relationship. But they'd rather have somebody that, I don't know. Let's just say this. I don't know if what he did was right, wrong, whatever. What I do know is he was a good trainer. I know somebody he's trained. And, people are going to have their quirks, and, he has his quirks, but there's something, you cannot say he wasn't a good trainer. Or he wasn't going to be on time. Or, the stuff that really matters. Anyway, enough about that. So, when it comes to trip planning, stuff like that, I left a little bit later this morning than maybe I was going to. I just didn't really feel like messing with, and it's not really that many mountains at night on 90, but I just didn't feel like doing it the whole time in the night. Plus, I knew that I was going to stop here at this truck stop anyway. This place I'm going to has overnight parking. I deliver at 4:30 in the morning. I'm 100 miles away. I've heard if you get there early, you could possibly get unloaded super early. But why am I going to want to get unloaded at 0200 in the Northeast with, night dispatch? No, I'm probably going to leave about 2:30, or not 2:30. I'll probably leave about 1:30 in the morning. Get there about 3, something like that. Maybe get unloaded by like sometime in the morning, where unless I get a pre-plan. A pre-plan is going to change a bunch of shit. Jesus Christ. Justin Hale, do I see Prime getting better in the future or worse? I guess that depends on, hold on a second. I guess that depends on what your, sorry about that, I had to read something. Do I see Prime getting better in the future or worse? Well, I guess that depends on what your definition of better or worse is. So, I don't know. There's certain things that people don't have an issue with. There's certain things that people have issues with. So, for me, when the whole COVID situation was going on, me putting on a mask or whatever didn't fucking really bother me. The same people that had a problem with the mask, they seem to be falling in line with this camera situation. So I guess it may not be that big of a deal with them. But that may be a bigger deal with some people that don't like that. And it's not just cameras. It could be just some other stuff, which could either be getting better or worse. So, and that, I think a lot of the stuff, whether it's better or worse, has nothing to do with the business as it has to do with kind of a culture that's being cultivated. So I guess that's going to depend on what you think is better or worse. Shamarcus, what's up? Just out here at the AM Best Pride in Chicopee, Massachusetts. I-90 exit 51 out here till about 1 a.m. in the morning. I got delivery 100 miles away at 0430 in Methuen or some shit, Massachusetts. I'm hoping to get the hell out of here as soon as possible. There's nothing I hate worse than being in the Boston area, other than being in the New York City or New Jersey area. At home in Alabama for 34. Just left Alabama. I was out there at damn, not the one Walmart, but the other Walmart. I was just out there. Nope, these knuckles aren't ashy today. Jesus Christ. Everybody wants to fucking make an easy parking job. And this... Oh, man. Some of you guys... I was guilty too. So when I say some of you guys... Yeah, I'm on 90 in Massachusetts. I just left Waterloo, New York. But some of you guys, including myself when I first came into this, a pull through sometime is not the best idea. Yeah, my wife says, sorry, on my way home, couldn't watch or comment. Yes, time is all that and everything for you, period. I do not mess with time. That is one thing that I do not... Oh, I can't even thinking about even thinking about somebody being late. And it may not even be some shit that affects me at all. It could be my son saying, or daughter or wife or whoever saying, I'm going over to this person's house, and me looking at it like, are you going to be there on time? But here's the deal. And this shit is going to... This is maybe from... December is going to be a time when this shit is going to slow down for one way or another. Right now, I'm going to just tell you that I've been running... I can't even tell you. Like, literally, I can't even tell you when the last time I was home. Because I've been just head down, focused on doing what I got to do. But I'm at a point where the shit's got to be easy. So I'm not, if a load is going to be too much brain damage, I'm not going to mess with it at this point. If a load's going to, like, it's got to be some easy shit as of now. American Warrior hopes I'm doing well. You know, I'm doing as good as I can right now, but there's things could be better always. Then just one thing before I probably get off here, you know, I did the video about my fleet manager, and I said it wasn't a hostage video, like I wasn't forced to make it. The reason I made that video was because I honestly do like my fleet manager, and I probably wouldn't have done that video if Tim Travels didn't if he hadn't mentioned my fleet manager's name. But since he did, then I had to kind of rep him just a little bit. So it wasn't kissing ass or anything like that. Somebody said that I was kissing. It was the best porno ever because I was kissing so much ass, or whatever it was. Man, I've said more critical shit. I mix it in with everything I'm doing, but probably than anybody that hasn't been fired from Prime. You know, or at least said it like it was. And whoever said that probably is a driver and probably only says shit on Facebook under some anonymous name. So I've never, I do try to walk a line, because business is personal relationships. So I'm not going to go out of my way to say anything fucking crazy. But I will say kind of what my thoughts are on things. So, but yeah, shoot, hold on a second before I. Looking at myself, I might be getting a little raggedy up there. Oh, yeah. Here's how, the only way you can really tell how long it's been is because whenever I go home, I shave my hair all the way down. So, it's been a while since I've been home. Yep, got the little J Prince fro right there. Alright, so anyway. That's it. I'm about to get off here, run back here, and take a nap. But, do appreciate you guys stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. As always, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.